I did the long one.
Yes, you did. And it goes on and goes on and goes on.
Dang it! I pressed the wrong button again.
You know, they have tape and Sharpies. That's all you got to do.
Listen, the one's orange and one's red, and it's like the 72 and 63-pound kettlebells that Rogue sells. It's like orange is 72, and then 63 is like a blood orange or
Right.
red, and I'm like, these are the same. These are the same. Oh, welcome back to Give It the Programming, everyone. I'm Chase Ingram.
I'm Captain America.
And along with me is Bill Grundler.
Wolverine.
And we're here to talk about age groups.
Yes.
Hey, nice shirt, bro.
You like that? Check that. Check that out. Let me get my mic out of the way.
Shirt. Check that out.
Boom.
I wonder if I can
blow
you up.
Can you blow me up? Blow me up.
Let's do this. Nope, that's me.
Blow me up. That's you.
Whoa. Yes. Look at that. That is the cult.
So good.
That is the cult shirt.
You know, I love being part of a cult. I'm actually really proud to be part of a cult.
Me too. It's a nice cult.
It's the cult.
The cult.
All the cults talk about, like, you know, sometime into this weird other side of the world, out of reality, whatever. But like, we're the cult that will last the longest. We will live the longest because stronger people are harder to kill.
Damn right.
And we're fit and shit. Fit and shit.
Fit and shit.
Fit and shit.
God, that looks good. The hats look good.
Mm-hmm.
The hat looks so good.
Dude, I love wearing mine. I've had more people that are non-CrossFitters come up to me and they're like, "Whoa, where'd you get that hat?"
Really?
Yeah, and they don't even see, like, they don't see the they don't see Pukey right away. They see cult. They're like, it's an instant like, what the hell is that all about? And then they come up and look at it and they're like, whoa, like that's sick. And I'm like, yeah, what is that? And they're like, oh, it's a CrossFit thing. And they're like, oh, it's kind of cool.
What's up, Corey, David, Stefan, Travis? Good morning, everyone. John, I believe you're in Germany. John, sorry, you never made it to the opening. So much better in person, except that I screwed it up for you because I played the wrong one. What's up, Brandon? This is awesome. You know, I haven't seen in a while is Bruce.
He usually pops in. He'll be here.
Where is he? Cat.
43 for life. I remember when I was 27 and I just stayed 27, and I was 27 for like. This would have been, well, next year will be the 27th year of being 27 years old. And I'm like, fuck, it's time to change that number.
Well, you know what is, I ask that question to people quite often, is what age, I asked this to my grandmother actually, is what age do you feel like?
Yeah.
Like, cause you say 27 and I feel like everybody has that year where you feel this way the rest of your life almost. Is yours 27?
No, I would say that mine was 27 because I was joking about that when I was in my like 40s. I was like, oh, I am 27 because I could still go to Vegas and I could still rage and I still throw down and I could still do whatever I need to do. And it's like that 27 where you're not completely dumb, but you can still do some dumb stuff. I'd say I see myself as an early 30s. 33, somewhere in there.
Yeah. I posed the question, how old do you feel? That might be interpreted differently. It's like, I am 39, but I feel 50.
Is that before or after the workout? Is that before a lot of wall balls or after a lot of wall balls?
I mean, in terms of, kind of like where I feel emotionally or like what age I really kind of became more self-aware.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, mine was 17.
17?
Yeah, 17. Corey said, I think he just means he's mentally.
No.
Yeah.
No way.
I don't know what it was. Turning 17 was just like,
because
I didn't have it all figured out, but I just started just like, I don't know, thinking.
I do remember my oldest daughter when she was 16 or 17, and she kind of getting ready to go to school, and she said she was nervous about it because it meant she was going to be an adult, and she was nervous about that. Like when you're
About what?
18, you're
Oh,
about being
turning
an adult.
18?
About
Okay.
being an adult. Like when you're 17, you can still be the kid because you're technically still a teenager. You're not an adult yet, you know.
Yeah, those
But I
decade
will.
terms.
Those are a trip. But there's a weird time frame, and I don't know when it happens necessarily. When all of a sudden you maybe you play with the I feel like I'm this age, but then you just kind of forget about it. Like it feels very strange for me. Maybe you're not there yet, but maybe it feels very strange for me to say 53.
Yeah.
Because I just don't see that. I mean, I don't see that. I'm young at heart for sure. I mean, I'm a goofball all the time. I mean, you should see me with my youngest daughter. I mean, geez, oh man, you would think I was some goofball 17-year-old just being all silly and laughing at the dumbest stuff. But like you for like age kind of stops. Even I have junior guards that I used to coach that have gotten married and had kids, and I look at them and I just still see them as like 12 and 13, but they're in their 30s
Yeah.
and they have kids. And you're like, oh shit, that's actually there's age right there staring me in the face. And I just don't acknowledge it. I refuse to acknowledge it.
When you explain it like that, I think I'm creeping towards that. I mean, I have a big milestone coming up. I'm turning 40 in November, so that's somewhat
Yeah, you're
exciting.
fucking old. You are fucking old.
Now it's getting
That's
real.
like that's death right
That's
there, dude.
level
That's
1.
1 foot in the grave.
Level
1
1.
foot in the grave right there.
A legit level 1 master.
You're a foot at that point. You're a full masters athlete.
Yeah,
full
masters. I've been a young Padawan for 5 years. But, I get that one braid off the side of my head now as I turn 40. So because of that, yeah, I guess it's a bit more. I still have like a numbered value to it, but I mean, since I turned like 33, I've just been like throwing out a number close to where I think I am. So maybe that's.
I think it's also with your kids
getting close
too.
to that, yeah.
When you have kids, you start looking at their timeline rather than your own timeline.
Yeah.
And so when you do that, when you are looking at everyone else's timeline and not yours, you don't really see what's happening with you. Like it is very weird how as you get older, time goes by much quicker. I mean, I remember a kid, it was like summertime, dude.
Oh, God.
It's like, man, it's like forever. And now if I blink too fast, summertime's fucking over with. I hate that.
Yeah, the kids. So there's the theory of relativity that comes with that too. But like kids, the more gets on my plate, like say you have a really slow day, like you have the day off.
Yeah.
Nothing prioritized and it's just a chill, laid back day. That's a long day. But when you have a day where it's just you have to get all of this stuff done, it's a fast day. And I think I have that with my life. And as you know, I've gotten, when I was just a coach, my days were my days and my training was my training. And then when I started owning a gym, those days definitely got shorter. I didn't have enough hours in the day. And then when I got married, I was now responsible for myself and my wife, and then kid 1, kid 2. And as things get piled on, that speeds things up.
You haven't even started all the camps and sports and practices and wait till that kicks up and you'll be like, shit, I got 15 minutes shit right now. That's all I got.
Yeah. So got a story after the end of this relativity thought. But like when you're young and you talk summertime, right? When I'm in elementary school and I'm 9, 3 or 4 months of my life is a really high percentage of my life span. Yep. But now when you're 40, you're like 3 or 4 months, you're like, that's a breeze, right? And that's just relative to your time. So like 3 or 4 months as a 9-year-old is a much bigger chunk of your timeline than it is when you're 40, 50, 60. And that relativity comes into place. But you talked sports. Signed my son up for soccer again. We talked last fall.
Yeah.
When Dylan had his first.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I signed him up. I was like, here, put him on this team. I'm going to sit back and just cheer from the sidelines. And then the YMCA emailed all the parents on the team like, we don't have a coach.
Sucked in.
We don't have a coach. And, I signed Dylan up, so I used my email to get the information. My wife does not get this email and is like, would anybody like to step up and coach, or else we won't be able to play and we'll probably have to disperse your kids at best. And I waited 2 hours, no response. And I replied all, I will coach the team. And not 10 minutes later, right? So I've already said my wife is not on this email chain with the parents because it's only my email when I registered my son for soccer. I get a yell from the living room in the other room. You're volunteering to coach Dylan's team? I was like, how do you even know that? Apparently, one of her friends' kids is on the team that just got the email and text Ashley that I volunteered to coach the soccer team. So that being said, I stayed out of it last year, but damn it, I can't wait to coach my son in sports this year.
Oh man.
I'm so excited. Like,
you're so lucky you were so lucky you weren't in the living room because you would have had a shoe hit you up in the side of the head.
Dude, yeah.
You'd have been like straight. It would have been shoe first, then ask.
Like, what am I supposed to do? Since Dylan's got to play soccer. No one's stepping up. So, this is a dad bucket list checkbox. Number one, coach my son in sports. I know he's 4.5, but I'm very excited.
I would say that you are in a very safe place to do it at the young age for that, for sure. The older age, like my dad did it with us, and it was he did a great job, but there was some learning that had to go on between how you're a state champ wrestling team coach and your kid's 8. You know what I mean? And you infuse your state wrestling coach enthusiasm on your 8-year-old kid, and your 8-year-old kid doesn't understand what the heck you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
It's tough, but it's awesome. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it, and I loved everything about it, but there is some learning that goes into that for sure.
Now, I've coached young kids when I was young, like when I was in college or graduating college. I coached my swim coach's daughter's basketball team, which I had no business coaching. Renata, I don't know. I don't have time for any of this stuff. But I think at 4.5, my expectations are 0 to negative. So I'm just like, my goal is like, okay, make sure everybody's having fun and we do some semblance of actively getting the ball towards the goal.
Yep.
And other than that, we're good.
You'll have fun. It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
So I'm excited. I'm very excited. What was I going to get to? Yeah, that's it. All right. We are here as we talk age to talk about the programming of the 2022 NoBull CrossFit Games age groupers. We'll talk about the programming specifically, based like the main programming with some, Bill, you got to call this, you got to watch this. So you definitely have more of an inside view of how these things shaped up in live competition versus just on paper, which I think is going to be a really cool add as we go through this. And, as we go through, we'll talk basically the mainstay programming, like the 35 to 39, that division. And then that's really where they went down or up as far as the scaling for different age groups. If you had any that came up, like that were interesting scales, I would love to lean on your expertise.
No, this was, there's going to be a lot of things to talk about not a lot, but some really cool things to talk about. And I think to start it just really easily, this is probably the first Masters games, I think, where when they look after all of the divisions, they didn't water anything down. There was no watering down. And that was really cool. When we get into the events, we'll talk about those different things. But that was, I think, the most impressive thing to me was they finally. I remember being one of the testing guys for the games, like in 2010, 2011, actually 2010, when they did the sled dog push, the handstand push into the overhead squat.
Yeah.
And And I remember talking to Tony Budding and him asking me, do you think masters athletes should do handstand push-ups in the games? And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, they should. It's like, well, what about the neck and the shoulders? And are they too old? And are they too this? And again, so there's been that from that level. I mean, and not that people couldn't do it. I mean, they were doing like the girl workouts way back then at that one and stuff like that. But went from that level where should they do handstand push-ups to when I was at the games and they had the upper divisions for Amanda not doing ring muscle-ups, to whereas this year they have the 65 plus doing modified pegboard ascents. So it was really cool. It was really cool seeing that progression and actually giving them the respect of the, fittest in the world type of athletes. So it was cool.
Yeah. Well, before we get to the program, we want to thank our partners of the show. Number one, Bubs Naturals. We have.
Look at that.
Remember when we were talking to Sean about what to do for September 11th coming up?
Oh,
we wanted to do the Glenn Hero workout because Glenn Doherty, who is the namesake, the fallen hero behind Bubs Naturals, who is Glenn Bubs Doherty, who fell at Benghazi on September 11th, we were going to do the hero workout, Glenn, this September 11th in honor of him and obviously to support Bubs Naturals. If you guys want to support them and the charities that they donate, 10% of all proceeds and profits to go to bubsnaturals.com. Do yourself a favor. Use the code GETWITH20 for 20% off that collagen protein, the MCT oil powder, that apple cider vinegar gummies. I got to tell you, I've been kind of double dipping in the gummies lately.
Really? Is that a thing? I didn't know that was a thing.
It says 2 a day, but I kind of do it day and night now. It's like it's a little morning pick me up and a little late night sweet tooth curb. But
do you feel any different? Do you?
I don't feel worse.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I don't feel worse, but
that's good.
Yeah, really good. And then remember we were talking about the grips last time from Element 26?
Yeah, the new double-sided ones.
Yeah, dude. I put those to work the other day. They're so good.
Yeah.
They're a little bit thinner, right? So they're not as like because the rubber ones work great. They feel a bit more industrial, might not be the best. Well, I mean, yeah.
That's not a bad thing though. I mean, you want them strong because what happens with me is I tear my grips.
Yeah.
Like all the ones I've had in the past, like I'm very efficient at getting the use of locking my hand on the bar with the grips. And so it puts a lot of tension on that fabric or whatever the stuff is. So the fact that they have been very industrial with that, but then still being able to pare that down and still have that strength, that's huge.
Yeah. Huge. It's the grips are awesome and they're a bit thinner. So I feel like my grip is even better because, with a thicker grip that opens up the hands a little bit. I mean, you did, you tested our rotating Fran.
Yeah.
What are Bubs? Oh, well, let's see. Yash, Bubs Naturals. We'll drop that. We'll drop this. Check it out, bro.
Check it out, bro. You need it.
Non-dairy coffee creamer, collagen protein. We put that in our coffee just about every.
MCT oil powder.
We put that all.
Apple gummy vinegar gummies.
It's delicious.
Good. Check it out, dude.
Yeah, so big thing here, September 11th, we are going to do the Glenn Hero workout.
Yeah.
Which is I'm like, man, that's freaking fast approaching.
Yeah, seriously.
September.
Dude, I'm telling you, that's that age thing. Close your eyes and all of a sudden, bam. Like we got past 4th of July and I was like, shit. Here comes Halloween now. We're already getting into the holidays
too. The back quarter of the year, just like you got Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. It's like bam. The last half was so fast.
Yeah.
So fast. All right, let's get into the events. It was really fun going through these just because I really didn't get to see them.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what they were until you talked about doing this. There's 3 days of competition, 3 on day 1, 2 on day 2, and 3 on day 3 for 8 total events. And we'll start with Thursday, called 3 Ways Down. I feel like that sounds like a
It's a band.
isn't that a band, 3 Doors
Three
Down?
doors down.
Yeah. Is that Superman? Is that the Superman guys? Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. All right, so 4-time 1,400-meter run, 4 rope climbs to 20 feet, 21 dumbbell shoulder to overhead, followed by 1,200 run, 3 rope climbs, 15, 800, 2 rope climbs, 9. And this is a classic weightlifting monostructural gymnastic triplet with some high skill, longer ropes, some heavier dumbbells, and probably most people are used to cycling for at least 2. You see a dumbbell snatch or even a shoulder overhead of those heavier ones. And then obviously a decent chunk of running. You got 3,400 meters of running in this.
Yeah.
And time cap being 30 minutes. So this is this is a classic CrossFit workout that you'd see at the CrossFit Games.
It is. So this was very open individual style, and I was really happy that they gave it to the age groups. And I love the weight that they used for the dumbbells. I mean, that it's heavy, even though they were exposed to it in, what was it, the semifinals? I think that they were told that they had the heavier dumbbell for the first time.
Yeah.
So they upped the weight, which is good. They upped the reps here, which was good. It definitely was a running event. I mean, if you were good on the run, I mean, there's a lot of distance there to cover, but it still had it had all 3 pieces. It had your weightlifting element, it had your calisthenics element, your body weight element with, with your body going up the rope, and then that runs. It was a really good way to start. It was fun too, because it led a lot of people that were trying to make a statement in all the different divisions. You got to see how hard they went to kick the door down on this one. So it was really fun. Even though it was long, there was still a lot of excitement with that. A lot of changing back and forth. You get the leaders out in the front on the run to see who's going to kind of push the pace, and then if they would collapse or not on the rope. So it was good. It was really fun. It was a great event.
How did they handle the rope climbs 20 feet? Did that throw some people for a loop at all? See people slow down on the dumbbells? Because I could see your grip's going to be much more smoked going into that. And to control 270s or 250s between men and women, I mean, that's tough for shoulder to overhead.
Yeah, it was. You could tell the athletes that knew, meaning the athletes that have been to the games before. I mean, we haven't done in the semis or anything like that, especially for any of these age groups, anything over 15 feet, mostly because you're doing those rope climbs in your gym. So there's that element. And 20 feet when you get to the games, it doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but it is a big deal when all of a sudden you are under fatigue and you're pushing the pace, and then you get up there, because everyone knows their pace of 1 or 2, depending on how tall or good of a rope climber they are, even 1 to 3 pulls up to the top. Now with that extra 5 feet, you guaranteed have 1, if not 2 pulls extra on every single one. So if you're doing 4 rope climbs, you're really actually doing something closer to 6 rope climbs from what you normally do in your gym. So, and with the crash pad, and Dave just threw this up there, you can come down faster, but you lose your jump. So a lot of the athletes are trying to jump off the pad up into the air, but when you push down hard, your feet just sink into the pad. So you're basically doing a true 20-foot climb, which is pretty cool. If you saw the athletes, they'd run the run real hard. If they didn't slow themselves down, then they were smoked by the time they got to the rope. They'd get there and do I have to stand and kind of recover a little bit. So you could definitely see some shuffling between the ropes and the shouldered overhead.
Yeah.
It's fun. It was a great event. It was a great event to start.
Oh, this is
nothing too technical. Not an overly technical, but a definitely, all right, who's got it? Who's got the gas and who's got the strength?
Yeah, and I'm looking over at the leaderboard. Just make things simple. The men 35 to 39, and this is one of those where, well, I can't say a top 10 predictor because only 10 were
right. Yes, it's 100% spot on. The top 10 were in the top 10.
In fact, all the events were. The programming was perfect.
It was spot on.
The programming was perfect. When we look at this as we're analyzing these events, just to give you guys a little peek behind the curtain, we use the not the end all be all, just as a guide, is we use the level 2 programming analysis worksheet. Now, a lot of this is for programming, say, for your affiliate, not just for a competition, but it allows us to look at some things. This is just a guide. There's a lot of more nuance that can go into this, but you can see we look at modalities and loads. We can look at this, and they have light, medium, heavy as far as weightlifting and gymnastics. We have time domains, heavy day, less than 5 minutes, 5 to 10, 11 to 20, 20 plus. Now, this sheet is a bit outdated as we've been doing this for over 2 years now. I keep saying we're going to do this, but we're going to develop really our own programming analysis worksheet because the test has expanded.
Yeah.
Right? There aren't 12 gymnastic movements available to us here, right? There's much different weightlifting movements and especially in regards to the CrossFit Games, there's so much odd object things like, you consider that like dumbbells and kettlebells are not even listed on here, the Husafel bags, sleds, but this is a guide to just kind of see where the programming is and what the balance is between weightlifting movements, monostructural movements, and gymnastics movements. So as we're going through this, we're just marking up the sheet. I have it right here in my hand. I've already filled it all out. So that's just what we're looking at as a little bit of a guide, obviously not gospel as we go into this. So let's look at the first event one more time before we go through. We have, again, it's a 20+ minute time frame. The time cap, I think, was 30. Like I said, it's a big chunk of running, 3,400 meters, so over 3K of running. Rope climbs, you're looking at a total of 9 to 20 feet. So the amount of, as you said, extra climbs you'll do is, if you're trying to keep that in perspective, what do you think? Like 15 rope climb field?
Probably closer to that, yeah.
45 dumbbell shoulder overhead with 70s and 50s for the mainstay age groups. And after the running, where your lungs and your legs are sapped, because it wasn't just a easy run.
No, you had to push it.
Run. Didn't they run around the dog park a little bit, or was it just around the North Park?
It was around the North Park, but it was in the dog park area. So they had 3 loops. They had an outer loop, and then a middle loop, and then that inner loop. Okay. And again, all of the athletes did that. Even the adaptive divisions had their lap that they had to do. So everyone was involved in that run.
Yeah,
it was cool. Yeah, a lot of good running, and it wasn't completely. It's not like you were at a track. There was a slight uphill,
elevation
slide down. I mean, nothing crazy, but like it was definitely there. It was a trail run for sure.
And the weight itself at this volume after those rope climbs, it's already awkward heavy, maybe not like numerically heavy, but
there was. I don't remember anybody doing the sets unbroken.
Okay.
So put that into perspective, and which I think is a smart move. I mean, even if you could, it's like, what's the point of doing that? The object is to be strong, because for some of the athletes, if you double the weight and you put it into a barbell perspective, the support that's needed on a barbell is way less than dumbbells, especially when you just use your lats, you just use your grip. And even though we're pushing rather than pulling, all of the support muscles to stabilize your body as you're going up the rope are taxed going into now having to stabilize the dumbbells up overhead. So there's a lot of activity that's going on in the shoulders and the triceps and the lats, just that upper girdle area to do that. So nobody went unbroken on those, which was smart.
And if you look at some of the athletes, like on the men's side, you got Roy Gamboa, Craig Kenny, Giannis.
Yeah, it's not like they're not beasts. It's not like they're not beasts.
Hype hitters out there,
right?
On the men's side. And you mentioned stability, and you look at this as like, I think it's more about stability and technique than it is really strength, because of what those rope climbs are going to do to your arm shoulder fatigue to stabilize those. So I thought it was a really cool way to kick things off. So as we advance to event number 2, the Max Trio. So you have a Max bike cows. Was that on the Concept 2 bike, or what was that on?
Yeah.
Concept 2 bike in 5 minutes, that's gross. And was it straight into a 1 rep max weighted pull up, straight into a 1 rep max front squat? For the pull up and front squat, they had 3 minutes to do those exercises.
Yeah. So you had 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes.
And then how was this scored? Total combined?
Total combined calories, weight, and weight.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how they put those all together, which I thought was it was an interesting mix. Because it forced you couldn't sandbag any to play to your strength necessarily, because if you did and you really dropped it down too much, like it's really hard to feather that with the time caps being so close. But there was
I'd have
still
to send that bike.
Oh man, yeah, seriously, right? You have
Front
to.
squat's gonna suck anyways.
Well, and there is an element of I do think that there was a little bit of classic CrossFit total feel to it, where it's like, if you suck at the deadlift, you're gonna suck at the whole total, even though you have a badass strict press. Like it almost doesn't matter, because you can get too many pounds on the deadlift to make up that big jump. I think you can do the same thing here with the calories on the bike. You can get a lot there. The pull-ups, I don't think that there's going to be a big disparity between. I mean, even if someone gets 100 pounds and someone gets 70 pounds, like that's only 30, and you can make those up in some other areas, like on the front squat. I mean, if you have a good front squat, we know that some of the athletes out there have amazing front squats. So I think that definitely kind of changes a little bit. But I liked how they put them all together. I liked the setup for it, and I think the time frames were important. I think that was good. The 5 minute on the bike forced you to be tired, but also allowed you to get the calories that you needed. So
Yeah.
it was a good mix, and it was basically like it was very similar, to other elements that we've seen in the individual type games, where they would have you running under fatigue. Even though it was the first time they put them all together like that, almost like a skills setup, which was kind of like, I would have almost said this was the skills piece rather than the next one that's the skills chipper.
Yeah, well, whenever I see this event, I just think of the skills test from 2011.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, they had a max weighted pull-up, they had a max snatch, and then I think it went into the farmer carry or handstand walk, one of the skill sets.
Now, it was crazy I will say, on the max pull-up, the way they did it, you could have no movement at all. Like,
Really?
you couldn't have a little bounce of the shoulders to come up. You weren't allowed to, like, bring your legs to kick up.
So it was a max strict?
It was a max, like, dead hang, pull up, and then you had to go from there. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Dude, well, very tough.
When you first look at this, you're like, "Oh, okay, event 1, triplet, weightlifting, monostructural gymnastics." You're like, "Event 2, triplet, weightlifting, monostructural gymnastics." And I'm like, "Actually, no."
Right.
One, this isn't, I mean, yes, this is a triplet. They're scored as singles, but they add them together, so you would consider that a triplet. But when you add the weight to the pull-up, it's no longer a gymnastics movement. It becomes a weightlifting movement.
Yeah.
And because gymnastics is moving your body in space unloaded. Weightlifting is moving an external load with your body. And so it takes that out of the category of gymnastic movement and into the category of a weightlifting movement.
Right.
Which I think
I really
some
wish
people's like, fine.
Yeah. Now, this is one that we didn't call because they were doing this and the run at the same time. So we didn't get to call this one. And I didn't get to see any of the athletes do this. And what I'm bummed about is
bummer, man.
Totally. I'm bummed that on the scorecard, they didn't break it down. They just have the total number of reps. So you don't know who did what on the pull up or who did what on the front squat. It's only when I think I saw a shot of Patty McGill that the CrossFit Games put out when she was doing her pull up, and she's in the 60 to 65 division, I believe. And here's this tall, older lady doing. I mean, she's long. She was a rower back in her day, and so she's doing this weighted pull up. She's got all these weights strapped to her, on the belt, and that would have been really cool to have been able to show people, not just everybody running, which would have been cool, but I wish we could have somehow gotten to at least show that, at least have like a post-production shot of it or something. Because there was a lot of good of those 3 events, a lot of good showing that I really wish that people could have seen.
I really wish you got to see
Yeah.
Separate the hours.
Totally.
It's just a little extra step. One of those, I mean, like just like the CrossFit total and the other total from quarterfinals for the individuals and masters.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't have that, but
so when you look at this one, we're calling this really a heavy day. It's saved for the bike cows. So you have 2 weightlifting movements, both heavy. They're for max weights, and then you have the one monostructural movement for that time domain. Do you want? I mean, I guess this is a triplet.
I would call it. Because it's all scored as one, so I would call it a triplet.
It's all scored together as one. So you have your triplet, even though it's like a heavy day triplet, which is always interesting. And it's task priority, do this, except for the bike, which is a time priority, right? You're given amount of time. So when we say time priority, you get an allotment of time to do as many reps as you can. So your AMRAPs or your, I guess, is an EMOM time priority, even though you have a task in the EMOM.
If they get shit, that one gets kind of muddy, huh?
Death by.
Death by would be, I would say task priority because you have to complete a certain amount, even though it's in the time. There's a time frame. If you don't complete the task, you don't get to move on.
Oh, that's a good point. So I guess EMOM could be the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, things like Tabata and AMRAPs is their time priority. So a little both here. We have that heavy gymnastics weighted, or this weightlifting pull, right? So we went from rope climbs into a max weighted pull. We went from the bike sapping your legs into the front squat. So making sure you don't just have pure one-off strength, but you have strength under fatigue, which means you're well conditioned into strength, also known as strength and conditioning. But hey, it's good thing we went over 2 articles.
This is a totally. This is a similar, a shorter version, but a similar idea as when you did the Helen at the games, the long Helen, Hellenish, where you had to work, and then you had to come and lift a 1-rep max, a heavy weight in a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Same idea. So I love that setup. I really do. And then when you look at it, it's only 11 minutes total. Like the time cap of this is 11 minutes for the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's good.
Yeah.
Good test. Good test. All right. Final event for day number 1, the skills chipper. Now the individuals did the skills speed medley where different skills were segmented. And as you advanced after cuts, they increased the skills. Here is a chipper. So it starts with 1 pegboard. Was it 1 for everybody?
Yeah.
Legless or legs?
They just said a regular ascent.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 pegboard, 50 double unders, 25 handstand push-ups, 50 double unders, 25 pistols, 50 double unders. As my OCD starts to click on one leg doing more than the other.
Yeah.
50 double unders, 25 GHDs, 50 double unders, and then a handstand walk. How far was the handstand walk?
I think it was 25 feet.
Okay, that makes sense.
And what's great about this is they made everybody do a version of that. So I know in the later age groups, they changed the number of double unders a little bit, but they still had a modified pegboard ascent, which was similar to the way they did the modified wall walk. So you had to hang from the pegboard, your feet off the ground.
Okay.
You had to go one hand up over a line and then back, and then the other hand up over a line and then back. So that's how you would get your 1 pegboard. So you had your athletes that were 60 plus. They had to hang from the pegboard, get the peg into the hole on both hands, and then come down before they dropped. So, I mean, they weren't ascending the whole thing, but, you know, again, let's see how many 60 plus people in the world are able to hang from 2 pegs and pull themselves up and be able to get themselves in there. And they also did pistols.
Right.
So they were alternating pistols, whereas the younger age groups were doing the same version as the open divisions did, where you had to do the half on one side, then half on the other side, or -1 on the other leg.
13 on one side, 12 on the other.
Right. which is so weird to me, but I mean, whatever.
It is.
It's all good.
That is weird. So we look at this. We have 5 different gymnastics movement. You have the pegboard, handstand push-up, pistol, GC sit-up, handstand walk. So you've got a pull with the pegboard, push with the handstand, squat with the pistol, core with the GHD, and then another what we consider a push style pressing movement with the handstand walk. Your monostructural element is the double unders within there. Now, if someone comes in and like, well, you pulled with the rope climb and then you pulled more with the pull up and then you have the pegboard, it's like it's one pegboard. And maybe it's the appropriate 1 rep for an age group division after smoking them on rope climbs and fatiguing them on a weighted pull up to see, do you still have the stamina and strength to do 1 pegboard?
Right. And I think I see the pegboard with the 1, especially in these divisions, even though it's the modified version in the older division. The teens still had to do it, the regular groups had to do it, but it's just 1 pegboard. It wasn't so taxing because it was so many. I saw this more as the accuracy part rather than the gymnastic pulling segment to it. It was, can you organize yourself and coordinate pulling up and then getting it in the hole rather than just doing more pull-ups, a regular pulling. They weren't doing the pegboard, quote unquote, for speed, even though they're in a race. It was, could you get these pieces done? Could you get up high enough? Could you get the peg in the hole and then get on with the other stuff?
Well, what I liked here is they put the 1 pegboard in the very beginning as the gatekeeper. If he had the skill, boom, boom, boom. But if not, hey.
And I asked that question to Boz when we went over all of these events. That was one of the first questions I asked, is when you guys put these together, why did you decide to put that in the front? I go, we saw what it looked like at the games the first time they brought the pegboards out, where you had our best female athletes in the world just sitting there looking at this thing.
Right.
And he said what we wanted was, we wanted them to have as much energy and power and have no fatigue. Even, and we're not counting the combined fatigue, but no fatigue going into that, to be able to go and hit that with the best that they could. We didn't want them to be at the very end and then just be like, okay, well, now it's just a matter of who had the gas to do it. They wanted everyone to have a true shot at getting that pegboard.
John asked, did any athletes not get one?
There were some that didn't. Yeah, there were some that struggled.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that it was a ton. But there were honestly, where I saw people having more problems was when they got to the strict handstands, because you had to do strict handstands up until 49.
I mean, 25 is a good chunk if you don't have your ducks in a row.
Yeah. I mean, everyone can do 15. You know what I mean? And then you're like, oh, you get that the speed wobbles as you're trying to get through there. And again, like if you're racing it and you jump in too fast, too hard, it makes those last 10 very difficult.
Hey, shout out to Corey. Speaking of, I walked on my hands in a competition this weekend. Super proud of myself, in case you couldn't tell. We're proud of you too, Corey. That's awesome, man.
Nice job, Corey.
Yeah. That's always a big milestone. Really cool. Congratulations, Corey.
Nice job, dude.
All right, so that's day 1. When we look at this event, this is a much faster pace for the, it's a 5 to 10 minute. Your fastest times were sub 5 was the fastest time.
Yeah.
We saw on the men's side. On the women's side, for the 35 to 39 specifically, we had right over 5. So 5 to 7 minutes is your average time frame. So we had something started off with, 20 plus, 25 plus, weightlifting, monostructural, classic CrossFit, triplet. And then you had the test between work capacity on a bike, strength in a vertical pull with weighted pull-up, and then pure strength with a front squat under fatigue from event 1 and the bike itself. And then you come into this skills. This is heavy on gymnastics with a slight low skill monostructural work to close out day number 1. Time frame, like I said, 5 to 7 minutes is about that time. So a good blend of things on day number 1. Lots of gymnastics movements, but a little skewed because of this event had 5 small gymnastic tests within this, right? You look at 1 pegboard, 25 handstand push-ups, I would say is probably your biggest gymnastic test in here, not the pistols, not the GHD sit-ups, and the handstand walk is the handstand walk. I think the handstand push-ups is really the big. Was this kind of the big decider for these athletes?
I think in the masters division, there's a split between handstand push-ups and pistols. I mean, we talk all
Yeah,
the time about that below parallel squat,
yeah.
and we've seen good athletes they've got all kinds of leg strength, but they have bad mobility. Like, some of the best athletes that we have, and they're on their toe doing a pistol. Well, if you're a 55-year-old athlete and you're doing pistols on your toes, your knees are going to be pissed at you.
Yeah.
And they're not going to want to play that game anymore. So you could see the difference between those that had handstand push-ups and those that had the pistols. Maybe there was a switch back and forth, but you would see some jostling just between those two movements. So that was really interesting to see. And obviously everyone's going to have their strengths and their weaknesses, but you could see, just like I talk about all the time, that there should be overhead squats in any masters division, because that's going to be you could have a beast that can snatch 225, but if you make them squat snatch something, then all of a sudden it drops drastically to like 135.
Right.
So I think that was good to have. And I would say it was an even split between those two. If you had both of them, you smashed this event.
Or none 35, depending on the masters athlete.
Right. Yeah, totally.
All right. So that was day one. As we move to day two, and as we look at this, we have parallel Elizabeth. So the individuals did Elizabeth elevated, where it was 21-15-9-9-9 of squat cleans at 135 and 95, and parallel bar dips with a traverse every basically third of whatever number they were on. Now here it has 21-15-9 of squat cleans, and it says 7 parallel bar traverses, 5 parallel bar traverses, 3. Were these only traverses and no dips?
Yeah, there was no dip, so they just had to go across, which was interesting, because I think that on the get-go, everyone thought, "Oh, sweet, we don't have to do the dip, so I can just get going." And there were a lot of people that would get going and just bail themselves right to the ground, because they would try. I mean, when was the last time that you raced on your hands on bars like that? If you did not respect what was happening with that, then you went down. And there were a lot of athletes that, they'd push the squat cleans, thinking that, it's not a big deal. I'm just going to kind of piddle around on my hands after this so I can get going. And they were smoked going to the bars, and immediately would hop right up, take 1 or 2 steps, and like just crumble, just completely crumble. Body all over the place, shaking, not really sure how to put themselves together. And there was a lot of learning on the fly of, okay, how do I keep my body straight? How do I keep my body tight? Like they were thinking racing. They weren't thinking be a gymnast and think about how a gymnast would walk back and forth across this the set of parallel bars. It was much harder than people thought it would be. The ones that had skill definitely smashed people, but even without the dips, it did exactly what it was going to do.
Okay.
The same exact feel for sure.
That's really cool. And I'm looking at this is when you total up the number of traverses, it's right about 15 total traverses. A parallel bar is about 8 feet in length. And so depending on, a couple inches here and there, depending on where they start with the tape line, they're walking in that position for a total of near 120 feet.
Right. I mean, we talked about how big it was with the athletes doing 150.
Right.
And here we are. I mean, with all of your age groups. And granted, they brought, like, when you got to 60 plus, they went 5-3-1. So it still brings it down. But like, that is still a lot of feet to move around, supporting your body weight on one hand at a time as you're going step by step.
And the other thing too is when you couple this up with squat cleans, is that the shoulder stamina and stability you need on these traverses gets smoked on high volume barbell cycling with a squat clean. Back of the shoulders, front rack position. That's a huge toll on the shoulders. I think that's why I hate Elizabeth so much. Bill, I saw this question come up a couple times. Bill, would you ever try to qualify and compete in the CrossFit Games? Again, I should add it. And again.
Again. I get asked if I'm quote unquote retired, and I will say that the nice thing I will say, my brother's like cringing right now because he says I say that all the time. I think that what's great about the Masters division is it's always there, and when I find the desire to want to get out and mix it up, I definitely will, and I know that I can because of the age groups that they have set up for that.
Yeah.
The thing with me is that I've competed for so long that I know how I am, and I don't want to. If I'm gonna compete, I want to train to compete.
Yeah.
I don't. I've been an athlete too long to go out and just do it just kind of for fun, just to see what would happen. I don't like to lose at all.
Yeah.
And I don't mind losing if I'm at my best and you're at your best and you beat me. I can give you a high five and say, man, great job. But if someone beats me and I know that I didn't perform the way I need to, I would be pissed.
Yeah.
And it's a priority thing. It's like, what do you have going on in your life? I mean, there's a lot of things that I am doing right now that are more important to me than getting that feeling of being out on the floor. But I always know that it's there. If I get the itch, and I mean, I'll never say never. I've been an athlete for too long. I'll never say that I'm completely done.
Yeah.
I'll just say it'll come out when I'm fired up to come out and do it.
Damn good. Ready.
Yeah.
I like watching you compete.
I mean, when I compete, I'm coming out to rip people's faces off. I'm not coming out to like, I just want to have a fun
This is
time
great.
out here.
High fives, everyone.
I have gym workouts for that. You know what I mean?
All right. So when you look at Elizabeth, we have the squat clean. So you have that pull from the floor and the squat with the clean itself as you stand up. Obviously, we had tested a front squat the other day. So now we have a clean on the next day, much lighter. Obviously, this isn't for max load, it's for max intensity. And couple that with a gymnastics press style movement in a different plane than, say, a handstand walk, just about inverted, right? Instead of the hands being over your head and you being upside down, the hands are below your waist and you're sitting there vertically. It's a couplet time frame. The total repetitions, the moderate that they have here is 50 to 200, which is, I think, is a big range.
Right.
And it also depends on the type of rep it is, but it's in that moderate range, just above 90 total reps. Well, no, it is in a small range if you count one traverse. So yeah, it's a low rep scheme. Now it's just above 60. Close. Yeah. It's a low rep scheme. You have a task priority, you have a couplet, and then you have that blend with, it's really, I mean, it's not a pull. Obviously, it's coming off the floor, but, it's pull, grip, squat, press, a little bit of everything. Yes, everyone, I'm very aware of Kalsu. I still owe that. Very aware. Very aware. No one will let me forget. That's why I said it on air. All right, that was the start day number 2. As we look at, they only had 2 events on day number 2, and it's called Mixed Mode Madness. And so you had 3 different couplets on an interval-based format. First couplet was 20 ring muscle-ups and a 60-meter obstacle sprint. Rest 1 minute. What was the cap on all these?
Believe it was 3 minutes on each round. Yeah, 3 minutes.
That sounds about right. 20 muscle-ups, 60-meter sprint. Rest a minute. 20 snatches, 60-meter sprint. 135 and 95. Were these squat or power?
They were just snatches. Just power snatches, basically.
Ground overhead, basically. Minute rest, 30 cal row, which is just nasty. How did that last sprint look after people's 30 cal rows?
Gumby legs, for sure. I mean, I think what was really, really nasty was having to go 20 snatches, the sprint, into 30 cal row in the sprint. Yeah. It was very similar to, again, a version of what the individuals were doing, where they had the intervals set. And I mean, theirs was the run and then the shoulder to overhead, but you had that break in between, and so there was always that. It wasn't much of a recovery, but it was a recovery. And any time in the games, and they've had in an interval style set where there is rest, that never makes it easier. That always makes it worse. Because you get the recovery, whether you want to recover or not. Like, you can't settle into a pace at that point. You have no choice but to recover what you get, and then you hop right on to the next piece, and you jump right into it, and you get going. And it was really impressive. And then again, what's impressive is they started off with all age groups, all of them having to do muscle ups. They brought the number down.
Okay. Yeah.
But 60 to 65 plus had 10 ring muscle ups to do.
Yeah.
And I thought that was amazing. Now, not everyone got it. You get whatever reps you can get.
Yeah.
But the fact that they put that to them set a precedent of, okay, you are now at the world championship for the fittest athletes in the world at whatever age group you're talking about. You should be able to do these things. There are no movements anymore that are off limits. And I think that was awesome to see with all these athletes. I think it was great.
Yeah. So when I'm looking at this, obviously you have 3 different couplets in an interval format. But
now the scoring on this was weird. Was
it total time?
It was total time.
Okay, so total time together combined between couplet 1, 2, and 3 added together.
Right.
Okay, now, so a lot like the hat trick.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
The hard part was how they, and honestly, and I hate that I'm going to say this, but originally they said that if an athlete completed all of the events, like to the finish line on all the runs, but didn't have the fastest runs, that person would be scored above everybody else that beat them. Let's say you did the Pat Barber style, where you win the first event, you're last in the second event so you can recover, and then you win the third event.
Oh.
Well, what they wanted originally was they wanted to take that out. So I was talking about that, but then I was looking at the scoring as it was coming out, and I was seeing people that didn't do that were placed ahead of athletes that didn't have. So I don't know if they're like, hey, there were too many people that it wasn't working the way that they wanted it to, or whatever. But it seemed like they made that adjustment on the fly, where it was just pure whatever your times were. And then they gave, like however many, I don't know how they did, if you didn't finish the run, how they set the time frame up on that. I don't know exactly. There's a lot of things that were happening.
Was this the day when someone like kicked a cord at the scoring table and it like shut down for an entire day?
Yeah, there were a lot of things that happened that day.
A lot of poor scoring guys. They earned their paycheck.
Right.
That week. Okay, so I got a question. So when I look at this, it is 3 different couplets combined together, but I really see this as more of a chipper, even though it's an interval style movement.
Yeah, because it's all put together. The design is interval, but the scoring, the way the intent is, what's your total number? So you're still trying to get that total number, even though it forces you to take those rests. So I would call it more of a chipper too. You do one piece and move on. We'll do one piece, move on.
Okay. And so we have gymnastics with the ring muscle ups. We have weightlifting, fairly light, 135 and 95 for these athletes for only 20 reps. You have the monostructural with the row. You also have the monostructural sprint with the run. And we said 5 to 10 minutes is the total aggregate time these athletes were doing. We said this is a chipper style event, task priority. You have the pull push with the ring muscle up. You have the pull press a little bit. And it's more of a pull. It's opposing movement patterns with the snatch, and then a little bit more pull on the row. So good arm pump.
Oh, totally. I mean,
good arm pump for mixed mode madness.
I mean, grip from the muscle up, grip from the snatch. And even though the row, we don't usually think of it as grip, but if you're pulling hard, and there were some of the guys in the adaptive division that were pulling 2,500 calories on their stroke rate. I was blown away at the rate that they were pulling. It was insane.
Dang.
Yeah.
That is
I was like,
Especially
dude,
after all
I
that.
don't pull that at all. I mean, I have to be selling my soul to get anywhere close to that, you know? It was nuts.
There's some big boys out there, though, man.
Yeah.
All right, so 2 events on day 2, 1 more day to go, and the first event on the 3rd day is carrying Karen, which I'm sure was really easy to say over and over.
I
And what we have,
let Jeff take care of that.
this is your job. I'll just say Karen. So you have a 168-foot Husafell carry. So this is at North Park.
Yeah.
Was that the length of the field, or
Yeah.
is that like 2 or 3 sections?
No, it was the length. And what they did is they had those objects. It was similar to strongman's carry that the individuals did a couple years ago with Karen in between. So you had objects that you would bring down the field with Karen interspersed in between, and then objects that you would bring back at the same time.
Okay. So you carry the Husafell bag 168 feet, 50 wall ball shots, 20 and 14 to a 10-foot target. Jerry bag carry on the way back were those hundreds and 70s.
Yeah.
The Husafell was 200 and 150
Right.
for the main, not the main, the younger division.
Yeah, for the younger divisions.
40 wall ball shots, 168-foot sled push. What was on the sled?
I think it was just the sled itself.
Okay.
I can't remember what the weight
Fast
of
push?
I mean, it was, man, I can't remember. I know that the sled was difficult for a lot of people. I mean,
Okay.
that wasn't a
It
fast
wasn't a
push.
joke sled.
No. I know that there was some weight on there. I can't remember what it was though, and they don't have it listed.
And so they moved all these things on one side of the field and ran back.
Yeah. So you do the carry, you do the
Okay.
wall balls, you come back, you bring the jerry cans over, you do the wall balls, come back, push the sled, do the wall balls, then you carry the Husafell bag back,
Okay.
come back with the wall balls, do the jerry bags back, come back, do the wall balls, and then you push the sled across.
Ooh. And the wall balls are 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, which is Karen, is 150 wall ball shots.
Right.
And that final sled, after
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah. It was nasty.
Ooh.
What was really what I was calling on this was that the odd objects in the beginning were your quote unquote active rest, and you
Okay.
had to kind of play with your I take that back. You race the carries and the wall balls because of the bigger chunks. That's what you choose to pace.
Okay.
Then it flips when all of a sudden the wall balls become a lot less.
Okay.
Now you have to go open up on those wall balls. Like you have to do big chunks. You know, the 50 and the 40, it wasn't about doing big chunks, because if you did, you just ruined yourself for the rest of the grunt work after that. So it was really interesting watching like the front half and the back half of the event and how the priority would switch. It was fun. It was cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And when you look at the wall ball shot, you've got the squat and the press, the shoulder fatigue, the leg fatigue, and then you couple that with a heavy Husafell bag carry in that. Did it have to be in a bear hug position or anyway?
They could carry it anyway. I was surprised that so many did decide to do it in a bear hug.
Why would you do
that? I mean, a couple people threw it up
probably
on their
hard to get it
shoulder,
up.
and I was like, man, if everyone can get it up there that easy, why isn't everyone putting it up there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the thing with jerry bag carries is the way it pulls on your shoulders down is actually a big limiter when it comes. They had a Husafell carry, 50 wall ball shots, jerry bag carry into that 40. Those 40 wall ball shots were probably the toughest part.
Oh man.
Of the event.
Well, second round as always. You know, it's always the shit round.
And then the sled push, you've got blowing up your quads, your legs, and your shoulders and upper body. So there's a whole lot of interference here with the wall ball shot. I love this event.
It's really cool. It was fun to watch. It would be a fun one to do. It'd be a really fun one to do. Just grunt. It's not a technique-y kind of thing. I mean, you can just kind of brute force your way through that. You know who was fun to watch on this one was Papadopoulos.
Oh,
he's just so dang burly.
Yeah. God.
And watching him move through I mean, granted, he's a tall guy, so the wall balls were no big deal, but moving the bag around, moving the jerry bags around, even seeing him having to take a couple breaks like on the sled, but just watching him move, it was unreal. I mean, he just made it look, I don't want to say easy, but you're just in awe the whole time watching him work. It was crazy.
You think about Karen, 5 to 6 minutes for your elite athletes just by themselves, but this event was taking 14 to 16 minutes
Right.
to get through with all the carries and this is cool. I would love to do this one.
Yeah.
Really cool. So you look at wall ball shots, that's a light weightlifting movement. I look at the jerry bag carry. I know it's 100 pounds in each hand and 70 pounds in each hand, but I look at that as a moderate farmer carry with the bag itself. I don't know how you look at that.
I would count it moderate because I would put that in the the deadlift realm, basically, with the weight of like a deadlift.
Moderate. The sled push I had as moderate because I just didn't think there's any weight, but what do you look at that? I mean, you watched it take place. You said it was a struggle for some people.
Yeah, it was. The sled was heavy for people, and I wish I could remember what the weight was. The sled was hard, and there were a lot of people that they would push to the first line and they would stop and they'd look around. They would purposely use that as a break. So there was weight on that. I would say that was a heavier weight. I mean, I don't want to say that it was. I guess the weights would be moderate, and then heavy. I just
put
can't
heavy
remember
for
what that
the
weight is.
bag. Yeah.
Okay.
So light wall ball, moderate for the bag carry and the sled push, and then heavy for the Husafel bag just because it was 200 and 150.
Yeah.
So, all right. That was to start off day 3. And then we move into the event that everybody got to do, which was rinse and repeat. We went through this for the individual side, but it was the every 2 minutes, do a 50-yard swim, starting with 8-calorie ski. You did that for 6 rounds, and you would add 2 cals each round. And then in 7th and 8th rounds, it was a 2-minute AMRAP of cals on the ski erg. Your score was total calories on the ski erg. So you have this couplet. You've got a double monostructural piece back to back. We just did basically a full weightlifting test. Now we have our monostructural test. This is that task time combo because of the E2 mom or every 2-minute format up until the end, which was get this work done in this time frame.
Your buy-in.
And then at the end, it was 2-minute AMRAPs,
right,
which became a time priority task. I say a time priority task instead of a task priority task, but you get what I'm saying.
You got it.
You get what I'm saying. This one, I mean, what I look at here is I look at balance of events that had a high percentage of a specific modality. So we talked about event 3, which was just that gymnastic test with a little double under sprinkled in. It was all gymnastics.
Right.
Well, we just did a pure weightlifting test in event 6. And then here comes that pure monostructural test in event 7. So now you have a nice balance of 3 events that had a high priority on a specific modality spread out across a series of tests over 3 days.
Yeah, I think that they were definitely plugging all the holes. It's interesting that they got up to this point. They've hit all of those pieces, but they did very specific pieces rather than blending all of those how we would normally see it. I think it's good to have that back and forth. But there was a lot of people that complained about this event, and I'm really shocked that they did. I'm really shocked of how much this seemed to be either they loved it or hated it event. And whether you're a swimmer or not a swimmer or whatever, I think that it is so damn cool how it's put together. So damn cool, not just for the competition in the different divisions itself, but the fact that you have all of the athletes competing in the exact, how else could you do all athletes competing on the exact same course?
So
it's
impressive.
The exact same setup. That's impressive to think that way, to be able to do something like that.
Yeah.
So I for as much as people say swimmers, not swimmers, it came down to this. It should have had more calories. It should have done. this is the first time they've ever had anything like this, and I think that it was a great event. I mean, across the entire games, let alone just in the Masters division.
Totally agree. Totally agree. All right, going into the final event, and when you think about, okay, what haven't we done yet? Whenever you get to the final event, is like, okay, what's left? And if this was regionals from like 2011 to 2013, it was like all of it. Everything we haven't done, let's put it in here. But when we look at, okay, event 1, we went long. A high volume like start, 20+ minute time frame. Event 2, different strength test, work capacity test in 5 minutes on the bike. Event 3, that gymnastics test. Event 4, we had the couplets there with the Elizabeth. So, a little work capacity, 5 to 7 minute time frame. We've had a couple of those. Event 5 is which one was event 5?
That was the mixed mode madness.
Yeah, the 3 2-minute, or the 3 couplets. We had the jerry bag, we had the swim. We haven't had anything fast and furious.
Right.
And here comes the final event called the final sprint, which is a 30 and 25 cal echo bike into 20 burpee box jump overs at 42 and 30. And then 10 sandbag to shoulders at 150 and 100. Again, we're looking at that 35 to 39 division baseline programming. And this is disgusting.
This was the best way to end the games for these athletes.
So good.
It's so good. I mean, no matter where you are finishing, no matter what place you're in, like, everybody gets to go out in a blaze of glory, because that's exactly what this ended to be. Even if you weren't one of the top people that were coming across the finish line first or second, and you were in some big race or whatever, you only had 5 minutes.
Right.
Like, it's a blaze of glory for everyone. Everyone can go balls out for 5 minutes or less and get through. It was a really, they were fun races. The box get overs were awesome. We saw all kinds. It was like that box get over thing. So you put your hands on the box.
Oh, you
and
can,
get
okay.
over.
I was going to ask, I was like, okay, if you make it 5 minutes, now I have to sell out.
Right.
If I sell out 30 cals on the Echo bike, I ain't jumping on a 42-inch box, bro. So that was going to be my question, is like, do I get to use my hands? So and what this really is this final sprint is a repeat from regionals.
Yep.
A little bit different. Honestly, I think better.
It would, yeah, dude, it was so fun. There was so Jen Dieter, she was in the 40 to 45 division, I believe. She was like Dukes of Hazzard style over the box every time, burpee, and would like slide her body across the top and drop on the other side. Slide her. It's like she was sliding across the hood. Man, dude, it was awesome. Everyone had, there were so many different ways. The 45. Thanks. Yeah, that's right. The only way I didn't see was somebody rolling over the top, and I think they said you had to have 2 feet.
I was gonna say there has to be like a foot inside the top of the box or something.
But it was really cool to see, and like the number on that that 20 reps sliding over, it was everyone could do the 10 fast, and then the fatigue from the bike starts to set in, so you can see where people are starting to like the doors are starting to come off the hinges as you get to that point, and then the sandbags are just like, it's like just whatever it takes to get the thing over my shoulder as they're kind of getting to the end. It was a really fun way to finish the games for the athletes. It was really cool.
I love this regional final. Like, this was a super fun final, and what was wild is that they had a lower box. I think it was 30 and 24, but you could still put your hands on.
That was the first time they tried that hands on the box thing. And it was, I don't think it was high enough for people to really figure out how to do it.
Yeah, it made it too easy.
Yeah.
But man, this is good. And
Yeah, it
it
was a
fills
great
in a
test.
lot of holes, all right? It's a sub 5-minute endeavor. We haven't had one of those tests yet. Again, we have a classic triplet of monostructural with the bike, gymnastics, really a double gymnastics movement with the burpee box jump overs, and then the sandbag to shoulder at 150 and 100 as we close out the programming for the masters or the age groupers for 2022. And as we look back on it, we had 9 total gymnastics movements. We had 10 different weightlifting, which is normal. You're going to see a lot more weightlifting movements. It doesn't have to be when you're looking at this. There shouldn't really be a doesn't have to be a balance like 7-7-7 weightlifting, gymnastics, monostructural. But it was 9 gymnastics, 10 monostructural, and 10 weightlifting and 8 monostructural, which is a good blend of different things. There was a lot of monostructural elements in here, but they weren't predominant ones per se, right? Like they were just part of the workout, which I think is a good way to infuse some of that.
Especially if you're going to use all the different versions of that. It wasn't that it was, the running wasn't just the run. It was run plus those other pieces. The bike wasn't just the bike. It was that into, the 1 rep max, and the swimming wasn't just the swim. That was the buy-in to get to. I guess that was the one. The ski was the one monostructure where it was purely, that's what it came down to, was how good are you on this one piece of monostructural?
Right. That was our monostructural test.
Yeah.
And even with the runs, like we had a long endurance run, but we also had a short sprint run.
Right.
We had a work capacity 5-minute C2 bike test, and then a 30 to 25 cal full send test. So run, right? Bike. I think sometimes he was like, look at all the running at the CrossFit Games. Not necessarily
totally different versions of them.
Yeah, not every, just because you moved your feet fast doesn't mean it's all the same run.
Right.
There's a big difference between 3K and shuttle run. Shuttle run. We look at the variance of time. We had 1 heavy day test, which was event number 2. We had 1 sub 5, which is the finale. 3 in the 5 to 10 minute range, 2 in the 11 to 20 minute range, which is what you're going to see. You're going to see most of your events. We have 8 total that we're scoring against in that 10 to 15 minute time range. That's a classic time range for most of your CrossFit events. And then 120 plus, 1 heavy, 120 plus, 1 fast, and then put the bulk of the stuff in the middle. Wow, that sounds a lot like our general programming prescription.
Yep.
We look at those things. Rep schemes, most of them were in that moderate range, right? The mid pack, somewhere between 50 to 150 reps. The majority of them were there. Only a couple were high volume. I put high volume in event 1 just because it was a longer test. It was a more volume on the test. I put high volume on the Karen test as well, just because, you have 150 wall ball shots plus all of those odd object tests. And then the other one I put as a higher volume was actually the swimming, the rinse and repeat. Right, people are getting over 120 to 130 cals, and that's with the 8 rounds of swimming tests. So I put that in there, but most was in that moderate range. Schemes, we didn't have any single modality test. So for example, what we mean by like a one-off, like a front squat as an event by itself would be a single test, but that was mixed with 2 other movements. So it was really a triplet. So we had 2 couplet tests, 3 triplet tests, and 3 chipper tests. We look at the gymnastics movements. What we like to do is categorize there. We had 9 different gymnastics movements, but we look at, okay, what's the balance between the pushing, pressing, pulling, core? We had 3 pressing movements, 2 predominantly pulling movements. So that was rope climb and pegboard. We had the GHD, so that's our core. We had jumping with the box jumps. We had the burpees, a push off the floor, so I guess I could call that 4. The pull push, we said, is I put that as the muscle up, right? Pull to get on the ring, press to get out. We talked on the individual side. A muscle up, I think, is more of a pressing dominant gymnastics movement, where the bar muscle up is a bit more of a pulling dominant. Like the difficulties are almost flipped. It's like I fail ring muscle ups on the dip, and I fail bar muscle ups with the inability to get on top of the bar. So like,
well, I think you can use so much. I mean, unless you're doing a strict muscle up.
yeah,
If you're doing any of the unstrict versions, if you're doing the false grip style, the kip takes so much of that first part of the pull out
yeah,
that it's almost negligible.
yeah.
Whereas on
Never
the bar,
fail
like
the
you
tip
need to
on the
have
bar.
that. Right. Right. Yeah, you don't fail your kip.
Yeah. I've gotten stuck at the bottom of the rings lots of times. I've never got to the top of the bar and be like, "I can't do this." I've gotten close though, I will say. I've pushed the limits there. So those are the gymnastics, decent balance there, a little bit more on the pressing than it is on the pulling. But if you look at the weightlifting, there's more pulling style movements, right? You have the clean squat or the weighted pull up is a pulling. You have the clean, which is lighter on the pull. It's more of a leg dominant one, but you have the snatches. That was another pull. The hugs for the Husafel, the carries, those are a grip intensive, not say like a bicep pull, but there's a bit more balance there between the weightlifting and the gymnastics if you guys are looking for some interference. So at the end of the day, we look at the different monostructurals. They had 2 runs, 2 bikes. We already said they're different. They had a swim, ski, double under, row. Like they hit all of it. They had 8
All of
different,
it.
all of it. Like I can't think of a different one other than like, I don't know, when is like they're going to create some bird wings and start flying around. I don't know if that qualifies. But all right. So that was the test. 8 events on the course of 3 days for age group athletes. And as we come to our Element 26 thumb tape review, Bill, would you like to take? Well, you called it, so I'll let you close things out.
Okay.
Unless you want to take it. You want to lead it off?
You give me yours. You give me yours.
So I have always had this endearment towards age group programming for years. And when I look at the difference between the individual open division and age group, is the individual open division is that like unknown, unknowable, ultimate test of fitness. Things are outside of the box and wild and crazy, push the limits, right? We're not going to showcase the athletes, we're going to test them. The thing I've always loved about the age group programming is that it's just textbook, elegant, classic CrossFit. You've got a lot of WMG triplets in here. You've got some couplets. The time frames are the same. There's nothing crazy off the wall. It's just a great, fun, I think, too, test of fitness. And as I watch the advancement of the individual open division, and I'm going to turn 40, and I'm at the point now where like they're doing things that I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do that. Or sometimes like, I don't even want to do that anymore. But I looked at every one of these tests and there wasn't one test that I didn't want to do. Not one. They all look fun. They're all so well balanced and they're all doable inside your affiliate as well for the most part.
Right.
As far as testing the 10, anything that they missed, you might have been able to ask for some little heavier things in there, I think, to balance some things out. I could say that. You had this 135 for the clean and the snatch. That's more light, moderate weight barbell cycling. Dumbbell shoulder overhead, same thing. We only had the heavy front squat. We had some odd object heavy tests, but the gymnastics were tested across the board, monostructural across the board, time frames across the board. That's the only thing I'd throw in there as maybe one more heavy thing somewhere, whether it's within the test itself, not necessarily a max lift. Man, I give this like a 1.8.
Yeah, dang.
This was a great test.
Yeah.
Top to bottom.
I would for the most part agree with all the things that you're saying. Some of the things that really caught my eye was the fact that it blended so well into what the open division was doing. You saw a lot of the same aspects. We saw the one event that went through all of the divisions, period, with the rinse and repeat. When you say that, I mean, you know me, I always choose to have some heavier things in there because I think that the tendency is that as the age groups get older, because the weights come down because of quote unquote the people are getting older, that it starts lending itself to a particular type of athlete or a particular size of athlete because now the weight isn't heavy anymore. What I do like is that even though they only had the pull up and the squat. Okay. I mean, I'm not a fan of the 1 rep max stuff necessarily, but they had that. But then they had the dumbbells, which is a decent weight overhead. Double dumbbells are crap. I mean, they are difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you do them a lot or not, like there's an element to that for sure. Then the odd objects that they had, the Husfeld bag was heavy.
Yeah.
The Jerry bags that they had to use were heavy. The sled that they had to push was heavy. And it did slow a lot of people down. And you could see that even if you look at the individual competition, the only event where it was like, okay, heavy. I mean, granted, they have 12, 15, 14.
I think 14.
14. When I look at the events that they had, when I think of the classic heavy weights that they were doing, it was the back nines with the deads.
Back 9 was wild.
That was heavy.
Yeah.
And then the shoulder to overhead where they're doing 300 and 200.
Yep. Sandbag.
Well, okay. The sandbag is yes, but it's a different version of that.
Yeah.
So when I look at the Masters division, it was a different version of let's see your level of strength in a different under a different view. So I see it that way. I don't think that we needed to test. I guess there were other people saying that they could have had another event in there. I think that's really easy for anyone under 45 to say that they should have another event in there when it's like you get in there and race these people and do that.
Yeah, your age groupers.
Did they get tested? I think the fact that they had 8 events is awesome. It's not your classic 6. The time frames were great. The events were great. You're right. Every single one of them looked fun. I loved every part of all of them. And I don't know exactly if it was I'm not sure exactly how Boz is doing the programming. If I know when he told us what the events were, he was the one that told us what the events were. So I know he's got his team that are doing things, but I think that the way it bled through and there was that common theme through all of the divisions, I liked. It kept everyone together. It kept everyone feeling the same stuff, and everyone's part of the one big group. So I'll go with your 1.8. I think that was awesome. I had a blast calling it. I had so much fun watching them get after it. I really enjoyed watching the teens and what they could do and seeing, okay, who's going to be into the individual division next, all the way to where I'm watching the Masters on our end.
Oh yeah.
Seeing like, holy shit, like, Pia Gund. I mean, I talked about her last time. Some of the best pistols I've ever seen.
So cool.
And she's in the 65 plus division.
Yeah.
It's really, it's cool. Like that's
great.
As much as that is the sport of fitness, 100%. That showcases what CrossFit, the fitness program, the methodology can do for people to continue them moving into like their upper ages. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So yeah, 1.8. I'll go 1.8.
All right. Love it.
Mm.
Which one did you like better?
Between the individuals and the Masters?
Or the individuals? And this isn't to say one is worse than the other.
Okay, no. I have an answer for that. I think that I will pick the Masters division, the age group division, because I think they really leveled up for the divisions. Everyone doing muscle ups, everyone doing peg boards. They didn't hesitate or hide from any movement where all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're going to do ring muscle ups and you guys have to do ring dips. They didn't change anything like that. And as much as I liked the individual division, I'm expecting the individual division to be on its game. But the Masters, I mean, and I'd say that there's been a massive increase over the course of the last, 5 years or so, 6 years or so, is they've upped the game and up. It's not the sideshow. It's becoming its own deal where it's not a side piece anymore. It is a big deal, and there's a lot of athletes and a lot of good athletes and a lot of hype behind it, and it's starting to get a lot more shows, and it's got, they have the Masters Fitness Collective and they have the Legends division. They have all this where the Masters division is becoming something, so the games has to be able to rise up to that level, and I think that they really did that this year. So I'm gonna go with the age group.
I have to agree. And it's probably a product of just my personal view of these things as far as my relative competitiveness. It's like I look at the shuttle run in 300 overhead. I'm like, I can't do that. I might get one. Right? If I get there in enough time. I would love to do the Capitol. Right. And so I look at it in terms of like, I'm just going totally subjective on my own personal take. Which one would I have more fun doing? Without question, these age group ones.
Oh, yeah.
They're great tests. They look fun, totally doable, things that I could enjoy myself with. Where the other ones, I'm like, yep, thank you for telling me how weak I am. I already knew that. Right? Like,
I remember Rob Orlando saying when he was doing the Masters, he went from the individual and started doing the Masters stuff, and we were always texting back and forth, hey, what'd you get on this one? What'd you get on that one? And he's like, I just want to make it to the Masters division. He's like, I don't want to qualify for the individuals. And I was like, how come? And he's like, because it fucking hurts too much.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you're going out to win, but like there's a mindset of I'm going out and I'm putting my entire body and soul and everything on the chopping block. And it's going to get tossed into the blender and get butchered up and come out the end and be like, God, that was great fun, everybody.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's a good test for the individuals. We're trying to find the fittest person, but like, which one do I like more?
Right.
Obviously. And I look at these, like I could do all of these right now. Even in my current state of lack of fitness, I could do all of these right now. Now, I won't even touch what these guys are doing, these girls are doing. Like, it is insane.
Yeah.
These people are so stupidly fit. Like, I was like, oh, I age up. I'm going to qualify the cross. I was like, no, I fucking won't. Not if I train as if I'm trying to make the games as an individual athlete, because this isn't like an age up and I made it. These people are so unbelievably fit. It's crazy.
I think it's like I was like the Olympic distance for triathlons.
Yeah.
Because I could do it on any level of fitness.
Right.
It's always fun. I know that I can train really hard and get a good time and have fun doing that and hurt just enough kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can really not and be like, God, it'd be really fun just to go and do that and sign up and just jump in. Knowing that I can make it through. I'm not going to have a great time necessarily, but I know that I can make it through.
Right.
So I see it kind of as the same thing. And David, you're absolutely right. Being a competitor is a blessing and a curse. Without a doubt, man. Without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you, dog. Well, that was awesome. Boz, great job.
Good job, Boz. Good job, team.
Probably one of my more, do I want to say this? I don't know.
I did. And I got kind of blasted, I think, by saying.
What did you say?
Well, we talked about the individuals, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put this right up with 2018, and I have people saying, no, there's this, and there was that, and this thing, and that thing. There's a lot of pieces connected to it for me. That's why I said it.
If I could, from a objective point of view, and infuse some like this is going to just be an opinion, my personal opinion. This age group programming was my favorite Boz program event of the entire season.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, dude. How many times did we talk about
individuals, games, open, whatever? Oh, I know Dave did the open, but this was his best one, in my opinion.
Yes.
And not to say anything was bad. Individuals were great. It was unique. Good test. Challenging test. This was my favorite one.
Yep.
Favorite one. Good job, Boz.
Job, dude.
Good job. Well, that'll do it for analyzing the programming of the 2022 age group division. We will do teams next week.
Okay. I got to check those out.
I got to check those out too.
I got to watch the double rowing machine. I got to check that thing out again. It's
just
weird.
these. Yeah, if we do this next week, reading these events is a brain malfunction. It's crazy. So I'm gonna have to watch these, and who knows? Maybe I'll get like halfway through. I'm like, Bill, we're scrapping it. We're not
gonna do that one. Screw that.
But what we are doing this Thursday, same time.
Yep.
10 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. noon Central. We are doing our third episode of the Glassman Chipper, which we will go through that I just put in the chat here. The What is Fitness? First published October 2002. Now, a lot of these early articles, I mean, these are Greg Glassman's write-ups for a lot of these.
Yeah.
But What is Fitness? This is in your level 1 handbook. If you guys are studying for your level 3. What's up, Patrick? How are you? This guy. He's so funny. He gives me so much shit all the time on Instagram. But we will be doing our third article, the Glassman Chipper. It will be the What is Fitness. So follow along with us. We put this in the chat. If you guys follow us on Patreon, first of all, thank you so much for being a Programmatron. You guys are awesome. You support us more than all of you already do. You can go to patreon.com if you do want to support us for $6 a month. We will drop the PDF in that. We just dropped it here in the chat. And afterwards, we'll also send you the edited and marked up version exclusively for our Patreon supporters. But that's it. 1.8 for me, 1.8 for Bill. Good job, Boz. Can't wait for next year already. And I can't wait for Thursday. Thank you guys for joining us. Bill, see you in a couple days.
Later, dude. Bye, everybody.
Hit the long one again.
Oh, yeah.